Okay, we're good to go.
All right, show 7 o'clock, so I'll call to order the regular meeting for the Shafter Planning Commission. Today is Tuesday, October 13th, 2020. May the record state that all commissioners are present via Zoom conference. At this time, we will take a motion to approve the agenda.
We make a motion
we approve the agenda.
A second.
Okay, first from Weeby and second from Nunless. Commissioner Nunless,
Aye.
Mauser,
Aye.
Johnston,
Aye.
Weeby,
Aye.
and Friends.
Okay, moving on, we will review the minutes from the previous meeting. That was our regular meeting via Zoom, August 11th.
I'll make a motion, we approve. Second.
Commissioner Nunless,
Aye.
Mauser,
Aye.
Johnston,
Aye.
Weeby,
Aye.
and Friends.
Aye. All right, at this time, we will open up public comment. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons wanting to address the commission on matters not listed on this agenda. Clerk, do we have anybody who would like to speak for public comment?
There are no public comments at this time.
Okay, seeing there are none, we will close the public comment and open the public hearing. We will move right into item number 1, temporary land use permit 20-112. We will hand it over to staff.
Honorable Chair, this staff report for this project is going to be provided by Suzanne Forrest.
Okay, if we can get the first slide up. Okay, can we move to this is for temporary land use permit number 20-112. And Southern California Gas Company has requested authorization to establish a temporary construction yard on 2 of the vacant lots located at the southeast corner of East Lerdo Highway and Carver Street. Next slide, please. The site plan on your screen will include a temporary office trailer powered by a generator, 40-foot containers for tool and material storage, and storage space for heavy equipment and materials needed to complete the pipeline replacement project. Restroom facilities are proposed to be provided by porta potties, and the entire site will be surrounded with a temporary screening fence that's 6 feet tall. Access to the site will be limited to the existing driveway on Carver Street, where the applicant has identified the location of a grizzly that will help knock dirt out of the truck tires and equipment tires so it doesn't track out onto the street. The construction yard is needed to support a pipeline replacement project that is proposed to improve gas pressure in the area. And next slide, please. This is a map of the route of the pipeline replacement project. The project will replace 19,000 feet of existing 2, 3, and 4-inch high-pressure gas line with an 8-inch gas line. The project will begin on the west side of the Friant-Kern Canal and go east on Lerdo Highway to Zerker Road, and then south and east on Zerker Road to a point that's south of New Capitol Court and at approximately the entrance to the Garlic Company facility. All the work is proposed to be performed within the existing right-of-way, and the portion of the pipeline installed under the Friant-Kern Canal will be done using a slick bore method, and the remainder will be installed using horizontal directional drilling. The applicant has indicated the project is scheduled to start November 2020 and be completed in January 2021. Some of the recommended conditions of approval require the applicant to obtain all required building and encroachment permits, to relocate a temporary drainage basin that's currently located just inside the entrance of the driveway on Carver Street. They'll need to fill that in some to put the grizzly in, so they're going to relocate it to the south of the driveway. To install a temporary 6-foot-high screening fence around the facility, to surface the site with either rock or decomposed granite to reduce the potential for dust and to also prevent mud from tracking out onto the public street. And there is a condition that prohibits the installation of any kind of permanent lodging, office, or restroom facilities on the site. Temporary land use permits are allowed by the zoning ordinance with your commission's approval. The permits are generally approved for a period of 1 year, and condition 16 specifies that the current request will expire on October 13th, 2021. Even though this exceeds the amount of time the applicant has indicated they need the site, by granting, we don't have anything else to tie it to, and granting the longer period of time will allow the applicant the freedom, if something unforeseen happens and it takes longer for them to install the pipeline, it'll mean they won't have to come back in and get an extension of time, which happened with the last project that we did. Staff believes the compliance with the proposed conditions of approval and will mitigate any impacts the project might have, and that it is compatible with the surrounding area, and recommends approval of the project. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Yes.
Thank you. At this time, do we have any questions for staff?
Not me.
Well, I don't.
No, I'm good.
Okay, then we will open the public hearing. If there's anyone who wishes to speak for or against this item, we'd ask that you do so now.
There is no comment at this time.
Hi, I'm sorry, I couldn't get my camera and mute on. My name's Rob Duke. I'm the Public Affairs Manager for Southern California Gas Company, and I really don't have anything to add to what was just reported on. This temporary use permit supports the pipeline improvement project as was described, and I just want you to know that I was here and listening and watching. And so that's all.
Okay, thank you. I have one question. It looks like here we have kind of an artificial timeline of 3 months, potentially November 2020 to January 2021. Is that the construction timeline, anticipated construction timeline?
That is the anticipated construction timeline, yes.
Yeah, hi, good evening. My name is Jonathan Larco. I'm the planning manager for SoCalGas, overseeing the planning department that is doing this project. And just looking at the timeline and looking at other issues that have come up, I just wanted to say now that it's more likely that we'd be starting mid-December, ending in April. So if, with your permission, if we are allowed to go to October, this is well within that timeline. I'm not asking for an extension. I just want to let you know that we might be moving 2 to 3 months out within that original timeline. Part of the delays is we're securing the 19,000 feet of 8-inch pipe, and pretty much there's been delays on manufacturing across the board all year that have been pushing things back about a month or 2 months, depending on quantity. So hopefully that's not an issue.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioners, any more questions? Okay, then I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, if you could you formally close the public hearing, please?
Yes, I will. Thank you, Wayne. Seeing there's nobody else who would wish to speak, we will close the public hearing. And since we've already asked for questions and nobody chimed in, we'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion that we approve the recommendation as read and written.
I'll second that.
Commissioner Nunless,
Aye.
Mauser,
Aye.
Johnston,
Aye.
Wiebe,
Aye.
and Friends.
Aye. Okay, with that, it completes our public hearing, and we will move on to management reports. Item number 1 looks like change regularly scheduled planning commission meeting start time to 6 p.m. Staff.
Honorable Chair, our city clerk will provide the presentation on this management report.
Good evening, Planning Commission. Before you, we have a request to adopt a resolution for Planning Commission meeting start time. At its September 1st, 2020 City Council meeting, the Council adopted Ordinance 720, amending Section 2.04.020 of the Shafter Municipal Code relating to City Council regular meetings beginning at 6 p.m. The council also expressed a preference for the city's planning commission to also move its start time. However, the planning commission start time is established by commission resolution. As a result, the planning commission will have to consider such a resolution separately, which is before you. Attached for your consideration is a resolution adopting a new meeting start time of 6 p.m. in following with the council's wishes. If adopted, the new meeting start time will begin on November 10th, 2020. Staff's recommendation is that you adopt Resolution 20-369, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Shafter, changing the meeting start time to 6 p.m. I am available for any questions.
I've got a question.
Yes.
What's the reasoning for the council to want us to change to the same time that they have?
Just to be a little bit more consistent and to also consistent with their meetings, and also they are hoping that they will get more public participation with a meeting start time of 6 p.m.
You know, is this our time to talk?
Yes.
This Commissioner Johnson. You know, I really feel this is not a good idea. And I don't think it will increase the attendance to the meetings. You know, most of the people in Shafter don't have 8 to 5 jobs. And having the meetings at 7, and the reason that the council changed it, as I was watching the meeting, it seemed to me like, was not for a very good reason. They just wanted to change it because all the rest of the cities had their meetings at 6 o'clock, and we should be like everybody else. Well, we have money and they don't. So that speaks of one thing. Well, maybe. But anyway, this just gives people a little bit more time. I don't know how it affects the other commissioners in their jobs, whether it's easier to get to a 6 or a 7 o'clock meeting. But anyway, that's my view on it, and I'm opposed to it.
I would speak to that as a personal preference, honestly, 7 is more ideal than 6.
You know, I'd have to second that. You know, if I had younger kids, by the time you get home from work and everyone's situated, it's, you know, you need that extra hour and family time before you head out.
I would support that. Stay where it is.
The only advantage that I saw to it was that, you know, Wayne and Suzanne wouldn't have to stick around for so much extra time to wait for the meeting to start. But we do have a responsibility to the public. And I think it was well stated that we need to, you know, think about the timing for them to get to a meeting.
Yes. And I'm sorry for interjecting, but the council's October 6th meeting did have much more participation on YouTube because we do have YouTube streaming at the same time. They had, I mean, as far as there was 19 viewers. So, I mean, that's not a whole lot, but we are hoping to start, the council is hoping to start in-person meetings in December or early next year. So that could be something, this could be brought again to you at that time, you know, just it's it's up to you, the commission.
You know, Yasmin, the amount of people that attend council meetings is directly related to what's on the agenda, regardless of what time it is. I mean, if people are for or against something adamantly, they're going to get to that meeting. However, I don't think we ought to make it more difficult for them. We've done it for years at 7 o'clock and it's worked well. So if it's not broken, I don't think we ought to fix it. Quit laughing, Weeby.
I agree with that, John. I think you just leave it alone.
What
I understand staff has to be here, it's an extra hour that you guys have to be here, and it's, considering that, but I think like Bob said, our duty is to the public, and I think that's much more convenient for people in the public to get that extra hour in between.
what if we let the council do it for a few months and we say that we're going to revisit it like after the first of the year? Just throwing that out there. No takers? Okay.
No, yeah, that's fine. I mean, nobody's like saying, nope, 6 o'clock is the way to go. I'm hearing that 7's fine. So that's what I prefer.
So what do we have to do to
Just no motion.
Yeah, no motion, the motion dies. Or you can either motion to not move the meeting, to not adopt the resolution. So either one.
I'd make a motion that we do not adopt the resolution.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Item 2 on management reports is report on the new accessory and junior dwelling unit laws. Planning Director Clausen.
Good evening, Honorable Chair, members of the Planning Commission. My name is Wayne Clausen. And the Planning Department would like to present to you these new California laws that allow the establishment of accessory dwelling units and junior accessory dwelling units. And I've got this picture on the first slide, and it really tells the whole story. You've got your existing single family residence on a single family residential lot, whether it's zoned R1 or estate. And what the state law now requires and allows is, at least on this single family lot, at least one detached accessory dwelling unit, or it can also be attached. And I've got another illustration that we can go over that. But then it also allows an attached junior accessory dwelling unit. So under this new paradigm of residential living, each single family residential lot, and this is throughout the state, you can have 3 dwelling units on an existing single family residential lot. So every existing single family residential lot in the city, if you can, if your lot's big enough to get that accessory dwelling unit on it, and they reduce the setback, the standard, residential setback is 5 feet from the side yard and 5 feet for accessory structures in the rear. It's now 4 feet. And so if you can get a dwelling unit on it, and they have to be at least 800 square feet in size, you can have, build a detached accessory structure, and you can convert your garage to a junior accessory structure. However, there is a limitation on the size of the junior accessory dwelling unit. It's 500 feet. But this is a brand new paradigm, and its whole purpose is to provide affordable housing where people already live. It's not about new affordable housing on vacant lots that are zoned for residential living. It's new residential dwelling units where people already live. Next slide, please. And so here's a number of ways of you can look at the what an accessory dwelling unit is. It can be detached. And if you have an existing accessory dwelling unit already on your lot, you can convert that to an accessory dwelling unit. You can attach it. You can include it like in an upstairs above the house. You can do it above the garage. If you happen to have a basement, I know we don't have a lot of basements in the city, but if you had one or you wanted to build one, you could make it below ground. And then you can, the biggest one, of course, is the garage conversion. You can make your garage into an accessory dwelling unit, convert it completely. This new law trumps the city's existing zoning ordinance on these matters. Doesn't regulate the zoning for building an accessory structure like a lot of folks have for playhouses or swimming pool houses or gaming houses. Doesn't regulate that, but it does require that the city allow these new detached and attached accessory structures. And the city has to, if the application is complete and the building plans meet California's building code, we have to approve them ministerially. I mean, we have to approve the accessory dwelling unit without a public hearing, without a conditional use permit, within 60 days of the completion of that application. So we have to permit it ministerially. Next slide, please. So here I tried to look for a really good illustration of what a junior accessory dwelling unit is, but its intent is to be small. And where an accessory dwelling unit you have to provide all the normal stuff you would in a standard single family home. You have to provide a kitchen with a stove top. You have to provide restrooms. You have to provide a sleeping area. In an accessory dwelling unit, you don't. You don't have to provide a so-called sleeping area. You have to provide a kitchen area, but it can be what's called an efficient kitchen, where really all you have is a hot pad and a sink and an area, for your refrigerator. And then again, you don't have to identify a sleeping area. It's intended to be small. They cannot be bigger than 500 square feet. So you cannot make any, like you're going to convert a portion of your garage into a junior accessory dwelling unit. You cannot make it bigger than 500 square feet. That's the state law. It's not something, and I need to point out the city has not adopted an ordinance to implement the new state law. It became effective on January 1st of 2020. We're looking right now, we're still studying the law. We're looking, we've had 3 accessory dwelling units submitted to the city so far. We've issued building permits for those. We've had 2 others where the folks asked us to look at it to see if it would meet state law, and they did. They were all good. They met the standard requirements. But we've issued 3, and they've been fairly easy to issue. There's really no size issue or setback issue, and the structures were very nice, and they provide all the living features that are required under the statute. We haven't seen a junior accessory dwelling unit presented yet, but we're sure that that's coming. What's interesting is the state law requires that the junior accessory dwelling unit have a separate entrance from the main entrance to the residence. So we have to make sure that they provide a separate outside entrance to this. And then we can restrict the size, and we have to make sure that the minimum requirements for like an efficiency kitchen is installed. And one of the other issues is we haven't adopted an ordinance yet is, you're looking at multiplying the number of residential units in existing neighborhoods significantly. If even if a quarter of the population converted their single family homes to 1 or 2 dwelling units, it would have significant impacts on traffic, air quality, and drainage issues. Just those 3 are the top items. And
All
It
the,
Go ahead, Chairman Johnson, or Commissioner Johnson.
it would put a strain on all the infrastructure.
It would cause a
The road,
significant,
the sewer, the garbage, pickup, everything.
Yeah.
yes, it would. And so literally, I mean, if you attempted to adopt an ordinance, you would have to prepare an environmental impact report, I'm sure. And then you'd have to come up with all these new standards, architectural standards. Everything we've seen so far that's been submitted to the city, people have done a really nice job on the plans. There's none that's been an issue. They've done a real, so we're gonna study it and watch it. We don't perceive any real problems. The state law is pretty clear. Included with your packet, Department of Housing and Community Development's new handbook on this. It just came out in September. It's a pretty good handbook. It explains everything. I think between the handbook and looking at the law, I think we can interpret it fairly well and implement what the state actually wants.
Yeah, I have a question, Wayne. I don't know if this
Sure.
is the time to ask it, but you showed in some of the illustrations there what would actually be a two-story, a garage with an apartment over the top or similar to that.
Here, let's go back to could we go back to the last slide, please? That's possible.
You know, the one that says above the garage.
Yeah.
Currently, and I don't know, I'm not positive of this, but we have very few two-story dwellings or even garages with I don't know of any. Maybe one or two over on the west side of town on Lerdo. But if my neighbor wants to go ahead and construct a new garage and put a second story on it, is that going to be permitted?
It would be, well, the total structure would have to meet the R1 standards, because we have to allow a detached accessory structure to be at least 16 feet in height. If they were going to build this, they could build it anyway under the R1 standards, and the height limitation in the R1 zone is 35 feet. So I don't see really.
So actually, if I want, there is no restriction on how many, as long as your dwelling isn't over 35 foot tall.
Yeah, it couldn't exceed 35 feet.
Want airplane hangar.
Right. So like a lot of folks have their existing garages right on the alley. They're 5 feet off the alley. And so if they wanted to build an accessory structure dwelling unit above it, they would, they could do that anyway. Well, no, they couldn't they could make it an accessory structure above the garage as like a gaming room or just a place, for the kids to play. They couldn't define it as an accessory dwelling unit, but under this new law, they could make that an actually accessory dwelling unit above the garage. They would have to provide all the, if it was detached, they would have to provide, the normal living requirements like a stove and a kitchen, all that. Now, if it was detached, and here it's attached, so you could do your junior accessory dwelling above the garage. But if it's detached, you cannot. A junior accessory dwelling unit cannot be provided in a detached accessory structure. It can only be provided in an existing residence or an attached garage area.
Well, out in Gossamer Grove, Lennar has some floor plans with those, I don't know what you'd call them, but it's a.
Yeah, well,
the only thing this is really changing for those people is now they can rent those out. It doesn't have to be the same family living there.
That's correct. But the state law requires whether it's attached or detached accessory structure, is they have to rent those for more than 30 days. So the state law that regulates the rental of dwelling units, they have to be rented for more than 30 days.
I don't think that was my question.
Okay.
My question was, those already exist in an R1 zoning now as those are in.
Yeah, they don't exist.
Grove.
Right. And the
They
standard
already
R1,
exist. But as it stood before this new law, you couldn't rent that. In other words, if your mother or dad or brother, sister, cousin, somebody that was a relative wanted to live in it, they could. That's still single family. Is that correct?
yeah, it's still single family.
Right. Now, if I want, now as the law is, if I want to go out on the street and find Joe Hobo and bring him in and rent that to him for $300 a month, I can do that.
Yeah, but they would have to, like, if it's a junior accessory dwelling, they'd have to provide an exterior or separate entrance.
Those do.
And do they? I don't.
Yeah.
I think I've only seen a couple of them be submitted for building permits, so not familiar that much with them. So next slide, please. And the next slide. So here's some of the requirements and standards under the state law. Because the city has not adopted an ordinance, the maximum square footage that's permitted in the city of Shafter for a detached accessory structure is 1,200 square feet. It cannot be any bigger than that. The interesting thing is for a attached accessory dwelling unit, it can be as big as 50% of the existing floor area. So if you have a 3,000 square foot home, your attached accessory dwelling, it could be 1,500 square feet in size. And that's permitted by state law. I told you earlier that accessory dwelling units are for, this law does not regulate accessory structures that are permitted under the city's zoning ordinance. But if someone has an existing 2,000 square foot accessory structure and they want to convert it to an accessory dwelling unit, they can build that accessory dwelling unit at 2,000 square feet or the same size as the existing accessory structure. So if someone went out and built, if they had the room, if they built a 3,000 square foot accessory structure, and then 6 months later decide, I want to convert it to a dwelling unit, they could under this new law. They could make it 3,000 square feet in size. But if it's a brand new accessory dwelling unit, that's its intended purpose, they're limited to 1,200 square feet. And then again, for junior accessory dwellings, they cannot be bigger than 500 square feet in size. The new minimum setback requirement for the rear and side yard is now 4 feet. This new law removed Shafter's existing maximum lot coverage restriction in the R1 and estate zone and the R2 and R3. So we cannot deny a accessory dwelling unit because the dwelling unit would exceed the maximum lot coverage under the R1 zone, which is 40%, and the estate zone is 30%. So if it covers more of the property than 40%, we have to permit it. We cannot deny it. Another interesting requirement is when you put in an accessory dwelling unit, we cannot require a new parking space for that accessory dwelling unit. So if someone converts their existing garage as an accessory dwelling unit, we cannot require a replacement for a new garage, two-car garage. We cannot require that for that home. The interesting thing is we can require replacement parking if it's just a conversion of a junior accessory dwelling unit. So someone puts in 500 square feet of in their garage and they lose one parking space in there, we can require that. But if they do an accessory dwelling unit and a junior accessory dwelling unit, it's not likely we could require that because they wouldn't have any more space to provide that parking space. And then the law allows this increase in residential density to go beyond the residential density that's spelled out in our adopted general plan and our zoning ordinance. So like in the R1 zone, there's 5 dwelling units per acre. That's the requirement. So if this law puts homes up to 8 dwelling units per acre, that new law now considers that new density consistent, or requires the city consider it consistent with the general plan and the zoning ordinance. So those are the new standards. There's a lot of little minutia to that, but we don't need to go over that tonight. But I want to introduce you to that. And as you go through, if you happen to go through the handbook and you see something you'd like to discuss or further address, we can certainly do that at future planning commission meetings. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Yes, Wayne.
Yes.
How much distance do you have to leave between the main dwelling unit and the accessory dwelling unit?
Yeah, so like even with today, if you build an accessory structure in your rear yard, the standard setback requirement is 10 feet. However, that can be reduced if you meet the building code requirements for a firewall. So I don't recall if it's a 1 hour firewall or 2 hour firewall. I think it's 1 hour, but you can significantly reduce that to where there's almost no setback if you meet the firewall requirements under the building code. And so that would be the same. And then
On both buildings?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, both buildings would have that requirement. You bet. Any other questions? No, it's new stuff. When I learned that you could have 3 dwelling units on one single family residential lot, it caught me off guard. I had heard it was coming and I had no idea it was that severe, but that's how the law actually reads. It's amazing. Thank you.
You. All right, that concludes the management reports. Moving on the agenda, we got commissioner reports. Is there anything that anybody would like to report?
No, I have nothing.
I see heads shaking no.
I do, but we can't put it on the air.
All right, well, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Meeting is adjourned.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Night.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.